Hey everybody, it's Mark Bouchard with Police Mentors. So when I first applied to be a police officer, I was 20 years old and I was rejected. I didn't get through, and I'm going to make a video to talk a little bit about that experience, what I learned, what I did that helped me to eventually get hired, and what you could do. So the first thing that I needed to do was change aspects of my lifestyle. So I had to drink less. I had a recruiter straight up ask me, "Do you think you have a drinking problem?" And of course I said no. And he said, "Well, I do." And I thought, wow, you're not a very good recruiter if you hired me then. But I had to make changes. I had to make sure that I wasn't around anybody doing drugs. I had to be more careful with my driving, make sure that I didn't get any speeding tickets, that kind of things. So step one is, what kind of lifestyle are you living? Because if you want to be a police officer, then you need to live a fairly productive lifestyle. You can't be doing bad things and expect to get hired in all kinds of different ways. The next thing I did was I looked for a police related job. So for me, eventually what I found was a job doing background checks. So kind of like investigations. It really wasn't that close to policing now that I look at it. But instead of just getting a random job, like I'd been a mover, I tried to find something related to police work. There's all kinds of other things in law enforcement, from, border services, corrections, jails, sheriffs, loss prevention, like security at stores, that kind of things. So you can find, or even civilian jobs within the police department. You could be, a dispatcher. You could be all kinds of things. And again, many of those are their own professions that you could choose to do. But I know people who've gone and been a dispatcher. I know multiple people. And then they use that to eventually help them to be better and more ready to become a cop. And that's something you can totally do with a lot of those other professions. And I think that helped me. Number 3 is get more life experience. Depending on your current status of your life, like maybe it means move out of your parents' basement, get your own place. For me, what that looked like was travel. I moved to Europe for a year. I had a girlfriend at the time, and we moved to Denmark. I lived there for a year. It meant things like learning a new language, learning a new culture. If you learn a new language, especially if it's a language that's spoken within the geography with which you want to work, that will help you tremendously. So that was one of the things that I did that really helped me. Another thing is fitness. Like, at the end of the day, applying to be a cop is a competitive process. And that's one of the things that you can control. So for me, it took me 3 years to get hired. Well, that's 3 years that you can get yourself into way better shape. So take an honest assessment. Where is your fitness at right now? Look at your strength. Look at your cardiovascular, your endurance, say you're running, that kind of stuff, and set some goals. Challenge yourself. How can I get better? Honestly, where am I weakest at? That's the thing I'm going to work on. That's what I would challenge you to do. And then the other thing I did is I started volunteering for the police department. The agency that I wanted to work for had something called a reserve program. For some agencies, it's called an auxiliary program. But basically, it's where you volunteer and you go out and you do ride-alongs as a police officer, or not as a full police officer. But you get a uniform, you get a vest, a radio, everything, all the intervention options except a gun. And then you go out on ride-alongs and you're actually helping officers to, effect arrests, make arrests, basically to investigate crime. You could, do video canvassing. You could do all kinds of things to assist with investigations. You could do community events. So, sometimes it's as simple as doing traffic control. But really, you're getting a chance to get out there and learn what the job is about. So I'm making this video because being a cop is not easy to get into. Most people get rejected. The standards are very high, but what you can do is take it as an opportunity to better yourself. Take an honest look at what things could I do better in many different areas. And I will say I've seen people who didn't get hired, and the recruiters came back a couple of years later and said, "Hey, we want to hire this person." And I was actually surprised because I didn't think they had been very ready. But I had suggested to learn a language, work on their fitness, like do all these different things, and they'd done them. And now the recruiter was actually very impressed with this applicant. So that's my challenge to you. What can you do? What could you work on? And how are you going to get better so that if this is what you really want to do, you can get in? So leave a message in the comments. Let me know what you think. Okay, thank you.